Welcome to the Politica UK InfoPod. The war between the United States and Iran has entered a deeply uncertain phase. After days of strikes, retaliation, and escalating rhetoric, the conflict increasingly appears to be spreading beyond its original battlefield. What began as a confrontation centered on Iran and its military infrastructure now risks drawing in other global powers and destabilising a much wider region. One of the most troubling developments emerging in recent reports is the suggestion that Russia may be providing intelligence to Tehran. According to several officials cited in international reporting, Moscow has allegedly shared information that could help Iran identify the locations of American ships and aircraft operating in the Gulf. If confirmed, this would represent a significant escalation in the geopolitical dimension of the conflict. Iran already faces a powerful coalition conducting air and missile strikes against its military capabilities. But intelligence assistance from another major power could change the strategic dynamics of the war. Even partial satellite or surveillance information could make it easier for Iranian forces to track and target American assets in the region. For now, US defense officials say they are aware of the reports and are monitoring the situation closely. Some officials have publicly downplayed the risk, arguing that American forces are already factoring such possibilities into their operational planning. Nevertheless, the mere suggestion of Russian involvement highlights how quickly regional conflicts can take on a global dimension. Wars rarely remain contained when major powers have overlapping interests. In this case, Russia has long maintained a strategic partnership with Iran, and the two countries have cooperated militarily in the past. At the same time, Russia is engaged in its own conflict in Ukraine, which already places Moscow in direct geopolitical rivalry with the West. Against that backdrop, the possibility of intelligence sharing raises fears that the war could evolve into a broader confrontation between competing global blocs. Meanwhile, the conflict itself continues to inflict damage without producing a clear strategic outcome. Airstrikes by the United States and its allies have reportedly hit thousands of targets across Iran, focusing on missile infrastructure, air defenses, and military facilities. Iran has responded with waves of missiles and drones aimed at military installations and countries hosting American forces across the region. In some cases, those attacks have reached neighbouring Gulf states and strategic energy infrastructure. The result is a familiar pattern in modern warfare. Enormous destruction, but limited decisive change. Civilian casualties have been mounting. Hundreds have been killed in the strikes on Iran during the first phase of the war, and many more have been injured or displaced. At the same time, infrastructure damage and attacks on shipping have begun to shake global energy markets. The Strait of Hormuz, through which a large portion of the world's oil supply travels, has once again become a strategic flashpoint. All of this raises an uncomfortable question about the direction of the conflict. If the war continues in its current form, dominated by airstrikes, missile attacks, and retaliatory operations, it may inflict enormous economic and human costs without achieving a clear political outcome. And now, with reports of Russian intelligence support for Tehran, the conflict risks taking on a far wider geopolitical dimension. History shows that wars become especially dangerous when they begin to draw in additional powers, each pursuing their own strategic interests. What began as a confrontation between Washington, Israel, and Tehran could gradually become something much larger, a contest between rival global alliances. For now, the situation remains fluid, but the latest developments underline just how volatile the moment has become. The war may have begun as a regional conflict, but the forces now surrounding it suggest the potential for something far more complicated and far more dangerous. This InfoPod was brought to you by Politica UK.